Hello and welcome. This is the fourth and last podcast on IDMP in this round. IDMP continues to be a super relevant topic for the pharma industry. Looking ahead, relevance and urgency will only increase as we are approaching the timelines laid out by the EMA for the first implementation round. My name is Epista and I'm a senior consultant at Epista Life Science, where we strive to continuously improve compliance in business together with our clients. I'm focused on aiding my clients when they're facing challenges in the regulatory area that may be in connection with process optimization, implementation, or updates to regulatory systems, or when facing new regulatory requirements like IDMP for medicinal product submission to the EMA. During this podcast series, we have been around many IDMP topics. Today, I would like to share some thoughts on benefits, both to support the planning of the IDMP journey and the actual benefits you may gain from implementing IDMP. We will look at the benefits, opportunities that comes from ensuring IDMP compliance, and we will also take a look at benefits where IDMP may act as a stepping stone for business improvement. In implementing IDMP, the end goal may be the same, but from company to company, I have seen different approaches to IDMP. I've also seen that obstacles are easier to cope with if activities are built on well-defined ambition and common end goal. This is the first benefit and where we will start. Allowing your IDMP ambition to land where it should be is dependent on many factors. Two of them are hidden in the title of this slide. Who are you and where are you going? Let's first look at who are you. This is implicit information that you just know within an organization. Make it explicit and it becomes a solid foundation to build on. Examples and questions to answer here would be: what product types are approved in the European market? Which procedures are followed? This helps to specify scope and tell something about the urgency for action and the possibilities for rollout of IDMP. How are the product data for ex-CVMPD handled today? We know this process will change, and having a clear picture of the current state will help to identify the future state and ensure there are no process gaps during that transition. The second part, where are you going, alludes to starting out with the end in mind. What is it you want to achieve? If we start out carefully and say we want to remain compliant, then consider also that the development of your product portfolio may change, or it may remain as it is. It may be expanded or it may be limited over time. Identify if there are other initiatives or challenges that could affect implementation of IDMP in your organization. Then clarify what it is you want to achieve by implementing IDMP. Besides remaining compliant, you may consider preparing a regulatory system to support the process, or other added benefits like data standardizations on a larger scale. Once all factors are in place, an end goal and ambition can be formulated. You may try to place your organization in the left-hand figure. I admit there may be added business benefits that are system independent, but most added benefits are found when supported by a system. There's absolutely nothing wrong in being in the compliant box. It only means that you will have some other challenges, for instance, of more process-related character, than those who also must focus on aligning with systems or involving a larger scope. Again, it all depends on your defined end goal. Let me make the assumption that you have decided on a strategy for implementing IDMP. You have an overview of the current data state, have identified any data gaps and quality issues to your data. Perhaps you are in the process of amending that data. You may also be working on implementing changes to your regulatory systems, defining new or adapting existing business processes, and identifying new roles to maintain data and data submissions. If not, I hope this can be inspiration to you. Let's take a closer look at the different IDMP affected areas as pieces in an IDMP puzzle. Dependent of your organization, the pieces in the puzzle may be named differently and there may be more or fewer pieces. Scope and timing are heavily dependent on the regulation, and this has for a long time been subject to change. With the updated implementation guideline from the EMA, it's getting clearer, and now it's up to the marketing authorization holders to complete activities to meet the timelines communicated. Processes will change due to IDMP, both internal business processes, but also those there are in the interaction with the authorities and the industry. Clarity is crucial for identifying activities for IDMP implementation, but also to support identifying changes required to IT and data, as well as people and organization. Let's dive into those. We talked about systems supporting the business process. So capturing the data, aligning data, and maintaining data during the product lifecycle. It's also to be able to support the ability to exchange this data, so data submission and handling of authority feedback is in scope. When it comes to data, the need for establishing processes to secure IDMP data that does not naturally reside within regulatory affairs are important. This goes hand in hand with establishing data ownership and embedding those responsibilities in the organization. It must be identified who will be maintaining the data and ensure that it's ready, on time, and in format for submission. These are roles and responsibilities to be established as part of the IDMP journey. This is an example on how IDMP activities may be broken down in topic streams and prioritized from a timeline perspective. In this case, also aligned with the EMA enforcement for submission. Having communicative overviews of this kind is beneficial as it allows for an easy understanding of the IDMP activities and the dependencies between those activities. The level of detail should be dependent of the story you wish to convey. More overviews may be needed, targeted to the receiver group. IDMP brings several possibilities for improvement, and it's up to the single marketing authorization holder to define at what level they are adopted in the organization. Let's look at a few examples from this list. Increasing trust in data. Applying more and better data standards is an objective that the EMA will fulfill by implementing IDMP. Data is uniquely identified and thus trusted for the use cases of SPOR. The marketing authorization holder will be utilizing those data standards for communicating product data information with the authorities. And there is an opportunity to utilize some of the same control vocabularies and identifiers to align product data on an organizational level or within regulatory affairs departments, instead of limiting to the data in scope for submission to the EMA. IDMP offers a unique opportunity to define those roles and responsibilities that are needed in the data-centric environment that regulatory affairs is becoming. It is still often something that has not been implemented in RA, but it's needed for IDMP to ensure data is received, maintained, and communicated as required. Again, the scope is a relevant factor. Is it done for IDMP purposes only, or are there other data activities that may benefit from that level of control? The last benefit I want to highlight is the ease of access to data. Access to product data will be provided through the SPOR PMS database. Data is accessible through application programming interfaces or web UI, and access will be based on the user role available for each stakeholder group. Product data in PMS will be classified in public and restricted data. PMS is therefore a new data source that will not only increase access to medicinal product data for the public, but also may have some added value for the industry Once available, it may be interesting to explore those use cases. If we jump over and look at the EMA use cases for SPOR, then these have been progressively defined, and through the Target Operating Model, or TOM, the process of how data will be used and managed are explained. This information is available as the EMA Implementation Guideline, Chapter 3. Let's go through the examples listed here. Going forward, the data submission will be integrated with the regulatory submission activities. This is to support digital transformation of regulatory activities and harmonization of data. The unique identification of medicinal products allow for tracking of products and substances for safety purposes. This was initiated with XEVMPD, but will be refined once transitioned into IDMP. The communication element is ensuring secure and unambiguous transfer of data to be shared between industry and authorities, but also with the public. As a topic example, we have the new scope, including information of risk of shortages. That will allow for identification of pharmaceutical equivalent products to mitigate in case of an identified shortage risk for a product. The simplification of minor changes we've already seen in place, for instance when changing the QPPV. Going forward, this will be handled using requesting the changes to the SPOR databases. Last but not least, there is the modernization of the electronic application form. This has been a long journey, but enforcement of SPOR data use is in place, and in 2022 there will be go-live of the first Web EAF form delivered from the Digital Application Dataset Integration, the DADI project. After looking at the benefits for implementing IDMP and the authority use cases, it makes good sense to ask ourselves, what do we want to gain from this now and on a longer term? For most companies, just staying compliant is a big enough challenge, but there are some synergies between IDMP and those plans companies often have for data transformation, data governance, and data standardization use that makes it interesting to look into. Here are a few topics that could be interesting for further discussion. Scope. So is this for EU data only? Are there some good reasons to expand use of certain data standardization elements to all products in your product portfolio? Or perhaps utilize organizational data from the OMS database to communicate to other areas of the organization? When we talk about business intelligence tools, there are also use cases that could be relevant here. One example is the ability to allow for product cross-referencing using IDMP. That is potentially an input for business surveillance and easy tracking of status of your generic products. And then of course we have the case of master data initiatives where utilizing SPOR data standards can be a stepping stone for looking into this area. With the example of shortages, in case it's not captured electronically in your organization today, and the regulatory information system is concluded not to be the best home for this information, how will it then be possible for you to maintain this information and be able to deliver the relevant data to regulatory and initially to the PMS database? In wrapping up, I will run you through the key takeaways from this podcast. In planning, you will find it beneficially to articulate a common ambition and working with the end goal in mind. Ensure to create and maintain activity overviews that also shows timing and dependencies. This will allow to convey the message that is needed to fulfill the end goal and when this is happening. The changes needed to ensure IDMP compliance may be relevant to use as leverage for other data standardization activities in the organization. And understanding the use case of the authorities may help you to build own use cases, either as part of your initial IDMP implementation scope or later in time. Thank you for joining this podcast. Feel free to reach out if you're interested to hear how Epista can support you on IDMP.